The stars had always been quiet. For thousands of years, humans looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. They built telescopes. They sent signals into the darkness. They waited for an answer. In the year 2087, the answer finally came. But it was not the answer they had hoped for. Far beyond the planet Jupiter, space itself began to tear open. Blue light cracked across the black emptiness like lightning. One ship emerged. Then another. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The Velen Empire had arrived, and they had brought war with them. Commander Torak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion of Stars. He was tall and gray-skinned, with 4 eyes that glowed soft yellow in the dim light. He had conquered many worlds. He had crushed many species. Earth was simply the next name on his list. "How many ships do we have?" Torak asked his second officer. 9,500 vessels, Commander. More than enough. Torak smiled. His sharp teeth caught the light. "Tell me about these humans." The officer pulled up a holographic display. A small blue planet appeared, spinning slowly. "They call their world Earth. Population of 11 billion. They have basic nuclear weapons. Simple chemical rockets. No energy shields. No faster-than-light travel. They have spread to their moon and to the red planet nearby, but their colonies are small and weak. How long until we reach them?" 3 standard rotations, Commander." Torak waved his hand, and the display disappeared. "This will be easy. Prepare the invasion force. I want this finished quickly." On Earth, the alarms were already screaming. Captain Jisoo Park was eating dinner when his communicator exploded with noise. He dropped his chopsticks and grabbed the device. The message was short and terrifying. "Report to Pacific Defense Command immediately." This is not a drill. Jisoo was 34 years old. He had black hair cut short and tired eyes that had seen too many training exercises. He was one of the best pilots in the United Earth Fleet, but he had never fought a real war. None of them had. When he arrived at the command center, chaos had already taken over. Officers ran between screens. Voices shouted numbers and coordinates. On the main display, a cloud of red dots moved slowly toward the inner solar system. "How many?" Jisoo asked a young technician. The technician looked at him with pale, frightened eyes. "Almost 10,000, sir." Jisoo felt his stomach drop. Earth had maybe 300 combat-ready spacecraft. 300 against 10,000. The math was simple and brutal. Admiral Sunwoo Yoon stood at the center of the room. He was an old man with white hair and a face carved from stone. He had served in 3 small wars and countless peacekeeping missions. Now he faced something far worse. "Listen to me," the admiral said. His voice was calm, and the room fell silent. "Yes. They have more ships. Yes. They have better technology. But they do not know us. They do not know what we are capable of, and that is our advantage." A young officer raised her hand. "Sir, what can we possibly do against a fleet that size?" "We fight smart," the admiral replied. "We do not meet them in open space where they can crush us with numbers. We make them come to us. We use our home. We use our tricks. We make them pay for every inch." In a different part of the base, Dr. Hana Kim was already working. She was a scientist, not a soldier. She had spent her career studying theoretical physics and dreaming of peaceful contact with alien life. Now those dreams had turned into nightmares. "What do we know about their ships?" she asked her team. "Very little," one of her assistants replied. "They use some kind of energy shield. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based. Their ships are faster and stronger than anything we have. Their ships are faster, Olive, than anything we have." Hana stared at the data on her screen. There had to be a weakness. Every system had a weakness. She just needed to find it. "Get me everything," she said. "Every scan. Every reading. Every piece of information our satellites have collected. I do not care how small it seems. Something in this data will help us survive." Back on the Velen flagship, Commander Torak received his first report about human behavior. His intelligence officer stood before him, looking confused. "Commander, the humans are not responding to our presence." "What do you mean?" "They have not sent any communication. No surrender offer. No request for terms. They are simply watching us." Torak frowned. Every other species had immediately tried to negotiate when they saw the size of his fleet. Fear was a universal language. But these humans said nothing. "Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the situation," Torak said. "Or perhaps they are simply stupid. Either way, it does not matter. We will teach them fear soon enough." But deep in his mind, something felt strange. A small voice whispered that silence was not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes, silence meant something else entirely. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and waited. Some prayed. Some cried. Some held their families close. But others did something different. They got angry. In cities around the world, volunteers lined up at military recruitment centers. Factories switched from making cars and phones to making weapons and ammunition. Scientists worked without sleep. Soldiers trained harder than ever before. Admiral Yoon watched the reports come in. He saw the fear in people's eyes. But he also saw something else. He saw determination. He saw fury. He saw a species that had spent its entire history fighting against impossible odds. "They think we are weak," the admiral said to Jisoo, who stood beside him. "They think we will break easily." "Will we, sir?" The admiral turned to look at the young captain. His old eyes were hard as iron. "We have survived ice ages. We have survived plagues. We have survived wars that killed millions. We have fought each other for thousands of years, and we are still here." He looked back at the screen, at the red dots moving closer. "These aliens have made a terrible mistake. They have given humanity a common enemy. And now they will learn what happens when humans stop fighting each other and start fighting together." The countdown had begun. In 3 days, the largest battle in human history would start. And nothing would ever be the same again. The Velen vanguard reached Earth's moon on the second day. 500 warships descended toward the gray surface like a swarm of metal insects. Commander Torak had sent them ahead to secure the human bases and prepare for the main invasion. He expected quick success. He expected surrender. He received neither. Captain Rovan led the vanguard. He was young for a Velen commander, eager to prove himself. When his ships approached the largest human base on the moon, he felt excitement in his chest. His first conquest. His first victory. "Scan the base," he ordered. "Scanning now, Captain." His sensor officer studied the readings. The base appears empty. No life signs. No power signatures. No power signatures. Rovan frowned. "Empty? Where did they go?" "Unknown, Captain. Perhaps they fled when they saw us coming." "Cowards," Rovan said with disgust. "Land the troops. Secure the facility. We will use it as our forward base." 40,000 Velen soldiers marched into the human base. They moved through empty corridors and abandoned rooms. They found food still sitting on tables. They found computers still running. Everything looked like the humans had left in a great hurry. Rovan smiled from his ship in orbit. Typical prey behavior. They ran like frightened animals. Then the moon exploded. Not all of it, but enough. The humans had buried fusion charges deep beneath their own bases. They had wired every building, every tunnel, every supply room with enough explosives to crack a small world. And when the Velen soldiers reached the center of the facility, someone on Earth pressed a button. The explosion was visible from space. A flower of fire bloomed on the moon's surface. 73 Velen ships were caught in the blast wave. 40,000 soldiers were vaporized in an instant. Captain Rovan stared at his screen in shock. His mouth hung open. His hands trembled. "What? What happened?" "They destroyed their own base, Captain. They killed our troops and their own facility rather than let us have it." "That is insane," Rovan whispered. "No species destroys their own resources. No species fights like this." "On Rovan," Rovan whispered. "On Rovan." But humans did, and they were just getting started. Far away in the asteroid belt, Captain Jisoo Park waited in the darkness. His small squadron of 12 stealth fighters had hidden among the floating rocks for 2 days. They had eaten cold food, they had slept in their cockpits, they had watched the Velen supply convoy approach on their sensors. "Remember," Jisoo said through his radio, "we hit them fast and hard. We do not stay to fight. We kill what we can, and we disappear. Understood?" "Understood, Captain," Lieutenant Minji Baek replied. She was his second in command, a skilled pilot with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. "But this feels wrong. Hiding in the shadows, attacking without warning. This is not how warriors fight. This is how survivors fight," Jisoo said. "And right now, survival is all that matters." The supply convoy had 38 ships. They carried food, weapons, and fuel for the Velen invasion fleet. They had minimal escort because no one expected humans to attack so far from Earth. That was their mistake. Jisoo's fighters burst from the asteroid field like ghosts. They fired their missiles before the Velen even knew they were there. 12 ships exploded in the first 5 seconds. Then Jisoo's squadron was among them, weaving between the larger vessels, firing at point-blank range. The Velen tried to respond. They tried to form defensive positions. They tried to communicate with each other. But human ships did not follow patterns. They did not move in formation. They attacked from every direction at once, using the asteroids as cover, using debris from destroyed ships as shields. In 3 minutes, it was over. 38 Velen supply ships were gone. Jisoo lost 2 fighters. He did not stay to count the dead. He gathered his squadron and vanished back into the darkness. On the Dominion of Stars, Commander Torak received both reports at the same time. The moon disaster, the convoy massacre. His yellow eyes narrowed as he read the details. "They destroyed their own base?" he asked slowly. "Yes, Commander. And they ambushed our supply ships using primitive fighters?" "Yes, Commander." Torak was silent for a long moment. In 200 conquests, he had never seen anything like this. Other species fought to protect their homes. They surrendered when the cost became too high. They followed logical patterns of war. These humans did none of those things. They destroyed their own property. They attacked without warning. They vanished like smoke. They did not fight to win. They fought to hurt. "What kind of species is this?" Torak muttered. His intelligence officer stepped forward. "Commander, I have been studying their history. These humans, they have spent their entire existence fighting each other. They have had thousands of wars. They have killed millions of their own kind. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet, and they have come close to using them. They fight themselves? Constantly, Commander. They have never known peace. War is in their blood. It is part of who they are." Torak felt something cold in his stomach. It was not fear. It could not be fear. He had never felt fear. But it was something close. "It does not matter," he said finally. "We have 9,000 ships. They have a few hundred. Numbers will decide this war, not tricks." He gave the order for the full fleet to advance. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. He would crush this strange species with overwhelming force. He would teach them that courage without power was meaningless. But on Earth, Dr. Hana Kim had finally found something. She had spent 3 days without sleep, studying every piece of data they had collected, and hidden in the patterns of Velen communication, she had discovered a secret. "Their ships are connected," she told Admiral Yoon. "All of them. They share a command network centered on the flagship. If we can destroy that network, their entire fleet will lose coordination." The Admiral leaned forward. "Can we reach the flagship?" "It will be almost impossible. They will protect it with everything they have." "Almost impossible," the Admiral repeated. He smiled a thin, hard smile. "That is better odds than we had yesterday." The real war was about to begin. The sky turned black with enemy ships. 8,900 Velen warships descended upon Earth like a plague of metal and fire. People around the world looked up and saw their worst nightmares become real. Children cried. Adults prayed. The old remembered stories of ancient disasters and knew this was worse than all of them combined. Admiral Sun Woo-yoon stood in the command center deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Screens surrounded him, showing the enemy fleet from 100 different angles. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Sirens screamed in the distance. "All stations report ready," an officer announced. The admiral took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything they had planned, everything they had built, everything they had sacrificed, came down to this. He pressed the button for the global communication channel. "People of Earth," he said. His voice was calm and steady. "Today we face the greatest threat in human history. They have come to take our world. They have come to make us slaves. They believe we are weak. They believe we will break. They are wrong." Around the world, soldiers listened. Pilots checked their weapons. Civilians in shelters held each other close. Everyone heard the old admiral's voice. "We did not ask for this war. We did not want it. But it has come to us anyway. And now we must show these invaders what humanity truly is. Fight for your families. Fight for your homes. Fight for every person who has ever lived and died on this beautiful planet. We may not win, but we will make them remember us forever." The admiral closed the channel and turned to his officers. "Activate the defense grid. All weapons free." Earth opened fire. Hidden platforms in orbit launched thousands of missiles. Ground-based railguns sent metal slugs screaming into the sky at impossible speeds. Laser batteries on every continent burned hot white lines through the darkness. The Velen fleet had expected resistance. They had not expected this. 400 ships died in the first hour. Their shields failed under the combined assault. Their hulls cracked and burned. Debris rained down on Earth like deadly snow, but the Velen kept coming. They had numbers that Earth could not match. For every ship that died, 20 more took its place. They pushed through the defensive fire with pure, overwhelming force. Then the bombardment began. Velen warships targeted military bases first. Plasma beams fell from the sky like the anger of gods. The Pacific Defense Command vanished in a ball of fire. The European Space Center melted into glass. Russian missile bases became smoking craters, but the humans had prepared for this too. Most of their forces had moved underground or into hidden locations. The bombs destroyed buildings, not armies. And when the Velen finally landed their ground troops, they discovered that conquering Earth would not be easy. Sergeant Do-hyun Choi had been a schoolteacher 3 months ago. He had taught history to teenagers in a small town near the coast. Now he wore armor and carried a rifle, leading a squad of resistance fighters through the ruins of what had once been a shopping mall. "They are in the next building," his scout reported. 30 soldiers. 2 of those walker machines. Do-hyun nodded. The Velen soldiers were tall and strong. Their weapons were better. Their armor was tougher. 1-on-1. A human could not win against them. But humans did not fight 1-on-1. "Set the charges," Do-hyun ordered. "Prepare the ambush." When the Velen patrol entered the street, the buildings on both sides exploded. The walker machines went down under tons of concrete. The soldiers tried to form a defensive circle. But human fighters appeared on every rooftop, firing from every window, throwing explosives from every shadow. The fight lasted 2 minutes. When it ended, 30 Velen soldiers lay dead. Do-hyun lost 3 of his people. He gathered the alien weapons and disappeared into the ruins before reinforcements could arrive. This scene repeated itself 1,000 times across the planet. In the forests of Russia, hunters who had spent their lives tracking animals now tracked aliens. In the deserts of Africa, nomads used the land itself as a weapon, leading Velen patrols into sandstorms and ambushes. In the cities of Asia, civilians built traps and bombs from everyday materials, turning every street corner into a potential death zone. The Velen had conquered 200 worlds. They had never faced anything like this. On other planets, the population surrendered after the military was destroyed. On Earth, Destroying the military just made the civilians angrier. Captain Junho Lee commanded a submarine deep in the Pacific Ocean. His vessel was old and slow compared to Velen technology. But it could hide in the deep water where alien sensors could not reach. Target acquired, his weapons officer reported. Velen carrier, directly above us, shields at 60% and dropping. They must be recharging after the last battle. Junho watched the screen. The carrier was huge, carrying thousands of troops and dozens of smaller ships. One torpedo would not destroy it, but one torpedo in the right place might do something better: fire. The nuclear torpedo rose through the dark water like a shark hunting prey. It burst through the surface and slammed into the carrier's belly at the exact moment the shields flickered during their recharge cycle. The explosion cracked the great ship in half. The carrier fell from the sky. It crashed into a Velen formation below, taking 12 escort vessels with it. The burning wreckage scattered across the ocean like dying stars. On the Dominion of Stars, Commander Torak watched the battle reports with growing disbelief. He was winning. He was definitely winning. His forces controlled the orbital space. His troops held major cities. The human military was shattered, but somehow, the humans kept fighting. They attacked supply lines. They destroyed communication towers. They killed soldiers in their sleep. They turned every victory into 1,000 small defeats. How many soldiers have we lost? Torak asked quietly. Over 2 million, Commander, and the count is still rising. 2 million. On a single planet. Against a primitive species. Torak had conquered entire star systems with fewer casualties. A junior officer approached nervously. Commander, some of the troops are asking. They want to know when the humans will surrender. Torak stared at him for a long moment. I do not think they will surrender, he said slowly. I do not think surrender exists in their language. The siege of Earth continued. And with every passing hour, the Velen learned a terrible truth. Some species could be defeated, but never conquered. Some species would rather die than kneel, and those species were the most dangerous of all. Captain Jisoo Park sat alone in a small room, staring at a recording device. Outside, pilots were preparing their ships for the final mission. Inside, he was trying to find the right words to say goodbye. Unji, he said finally, speaking to his younger sister. She was somewhere in the underground hospitals, saving lives, while he prepared to end his own. If you are watching this, then the mission worked. But I did not come back. I am sorry. I promised our mother I would always protect you. I hope this counts. He paused, swallowing the pain in his throat. The world needed someone to fly into the fire. I was the best pilot we had. It had to be me. Please do not be angry. Please remember that I loved you. Please live a good life. That is all I ever wanted for you. He turned off the device and stood up. There was no more time for tears. The mission was waiting. Dr. Hana Kim had worked for 7 days straight. She had found the weakness in the Velen fleet, and now she had found a way to exploit it. The plan was simple and terrible. Destroy the flagship. Destroy the command network. Watch the enemy tear itself apart. The Dominion of Stars is protected by 300 ships at all times, she explained to the gathered pilots. Its shields are the strongest in the fleet. Its weapons can destroy anything that comes close. Getting there will be nearly impossible. Nearly impossible is still possible, Jisoo said. Hana nodded slowly. The shield has a weak point at the rear of the ship, near the engine core. It flickers for 2 seconds every time the ship changes direction. If someone could get through that gap and hit the command center. She did not finish the sentence. Everyone knew what it meant. How many ships do we have? Admiral Yoon asked. 200. It is everything we have left. The admiral closed his eyes. 200 ships against 300, plus the flagship. And they had to get close enough for one ship to fly inside the enemy defenses. The losses would be catastrophic. I need volunteers only, the admiral said. No one is ordered on this mission. Every pilot in the room stepped forward. Every single one. The attack began at midnight. 200 human ships rose from hidden bases around the world. They gathered in low orbit, forming a loose cloud of metal and desperation. Across the communication channel, Captain Jisoo gave his final orders. Do not fly in formation. Do not follow patterns. Make them chase you. Make them guess. Make them afraid. And when you see an opening, take it. He paused. I am proud to fly with all of you. Now let us show these aliens how humans say goodbye. The fleet shot toward the enemy flagship like bullets from a gun. The Velen defenders moved to intercept, confident in their superior numbers. They expected the humans to break against their shields like waves against rocks. They were wrong. Human pilots flew like madmen. They used debris as weapons. They rammed damaged ships into enemy formations. They fired at point-blank range and exploded their own vessels when they were too damaged to fight. Every death took Velen ships with it. Lieutenant Minji Baek flew beside Captain Jisoo, protecting his approach. Her ship was already damaged, smoke trailing from one engine. But she kept flying, kept fighting, kept killing. Captain, I can see the flagship, she reported. But there are too many defenders. We cannot get through. Jisoo looked at his sensors. She was right. A wall of Velen ships blocked the path to the Dominion of Stars. They needed a miracle. Minji, he said quietly, you know what we have to do. There was a long silence on the channel. Then Minji's voice came back, steady and calm. She turned her damaged ship toward the thickest part of the enemy formation. Her engines screamed as she pushed them beyond their limits. Velen ships tried to destroy her, but she was moving too fast, weaving too unpredictably. Tell my family I was brave, she said. Then she was gone, her ship crashing into the center of the Velen formation. The explosion was massive, consuming 30 enemy vessels and creating a gap in their defenses. Jisoo did not hesitate. He pushed his fighter through the gap, dodging wreckage and enemy fire. The flagship was right there, growing larger in his viewport with every second. He could see its guns turning toward him. He could see its shields glowing. Come on, he whispered. Change direction. Move. Give me my opening. The Dominion of Stars began to turn, bringing more weapons to bear on the human attackers. And for exactly 2 seconds, the shield at the rear of the ship flickered. Jisoo flew through. The inside of the ship was chaos. Alarms screamed. Soldiers ran in every direction. No one expected a single human fighter to breach their defenses. No one was prepared for what happened next. Commander Torok stood on his bridge, watching the battle with growing fury. His fleet was winning, but the cost was unacceptable. These humans fought like demons. They did not care about dying. They only cared about taking his soldiers with them. Commander, an officer screamed. Enemy ship inside the perimeter. It is heading for the bridge. Torok turned toward the viewport. He saw the small human fighter racing toward him, trailing fire and smoke. He saw the pilot inside, a young human with black hair and determined eyes. For one moment, their eyes met across the void. Then, Captain Jisoo Park crashed his ship into the command center of the Dominion of Stars. The explosion killed Commander Torok instantly. It destroyed the central command network. It sent a shockwave through every Velen ship in the fleet, and across the battlefield, 9,000 enemy vessels suddenly went dark. Without the command network, they could not coordinate. They could not receive orders. They could not tell friend from enemy. Ships collided. Ships fired on each other. Ships fled in random directions. On Earth, the defenders watched in amazement as the Velen fleet tore itself apart. Admiral Yoon stood in his command center, tears running down his weathered face. He did it, he whispered. That beautiful, brave fool did it. The tide had finally turned. The silence was the strangest part. After weeks of explosions, screaming engines, and dying ships, the silence felt almost holy. Earth floated in space surrounded by a graveyard of broken metal. Thousands of Velen warships drifted without power, their crews dead or dying. The great invasion was over. Of the 9,500 vessels that had come to conquer Earth, only 17 managed to escape. They limped away from the battlefield with damaged engines and terrified crews. They did not look back. They could not bear to see what remained. Captain Rovan commanded the retreat. He was the same officer who had led the vanguard to the moon, the same officer who had watched his soldiers die in that first explosion. Now he was the highest-ranking Velen survivor. And he carried a terrible weight. "Set course for home," he ordered quietly. His crew obeyed without speaking. No one had words for what they had witnessed. No one could explain how a primitive species with primitive technology had done this to the greatest military force in the galaxy. The journey home took 3 weeks. During that time, Rovan barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw human ships crashing into his fleet. He saw the dominion of stars exploding. He saw Commander Torak's face in that final moment, filled with something that might have been fear. When the 17 ships finally reached the Velen homeworld, they were met by a massive welcoming fleet. The Emperor himself waited to greet the returning heroes, but there were no heroes, only survivors. Captain Rovan walked through the great halls of the Imperial Palace like a ghost. His uniform was torn. His eyes were empty. The guards who lined the halls whispered to each other. They had never seen a Velen officer look so broken. The Emperor sat on his throne, surrounded by advisors and generals. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled with centuries of rule. He had sent the fleet to conquer Earth. He had expected victory. Now he demanded answers. "Explain," the Emperor said. His voice echoed through the silent hall. "You had 9,500 ships, the finest warriors in the Empire, technology beyond anything the humans possessed. How did this happen?" Rovan stood before the throne, trembling. He had prepared a report. He had practiced his words. But now, facing his Emperor, everything felt hollow. "They did not fight like any species we have encountered," he began. "They did not follow logical patterns. They did not seek to minimize their losses. They used tactics we have never seen before." Quote, "What tactics?" "They destroyed their own bases rather than let us capture them. They attacked supply convoys in the darkness of space. They turned their cities into death traps. They used their own bodies as weapons." Rovan's voice cracked. "They crashed their ships into ours. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They fought like they had nothing to lose." An advisor stepped forward. "Surely their military was destroyed early in the campaign. How did they continue fighting?" "Their military was only the beginning," Rovan replied. "When we destroyed their soldiers, their civilians took up arms. Teachers became warriors. Farmers became saboteurs. Children threw explosives at our troops. The entire species fought us, every single one." The Emperor leaned forward. "And their leader? The one who planned their defense? Admiral Yoon. An old human male. He refused to face us in open battle. He made us chase shadows. He turned our strengths into weaknesses." Rovan paused. "And when we thought we had won, they sent a single pilot to destroy our command ship. One pilot against 300 defenders. He killed Commander Torak with his bare hands and a broken ship." Silence filled the throne room. The Emperor's advisors exchanged worried glances. In 200 conquests, nothing like this had ever happened. "What are they?" the Emperor asked finally. "Are they animals? Monsters?" Rovan looked up at his ruler. For the first time since returning, something besides emptiness filled his eyes. It was respect. It was fear. It was something close to admiration. "No, Your Majesty. They are survivors. They have spent their entire history fighting against impossible odds. Ice ages, plagues, wars against each other that killed millions. They have faced extinction 100 times, and every time they have refused to die." He took a shaky breath. "They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and they will never stop fighting. Never." The Emperor sat back in his throne. His ancient eyes stared at the ceiling, seeing futures that no one else could imagine. "We will leave them alone," he declared. "Send word to all our territories. The planet called Earth is forbidden. No Velen ship will approach it again. 6 months passed on Earth. The scars of invasion marked every continent. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. The oceans were filled with debris from the battle in orbit. But somehow, impossibly, humanity had survived. Yunji Park stood before a memorial wall in what had once been Seoul. Thousands of names were carved into the black stone. Heroes who had given their lives for Earth. She found her brother's name near the top, surrounded by the names of his squadron. "You did it," she whispered, touching the cold stone. "You saved us all. Just like you promised." Not far away, Dr. Hana Kim led a team of scientists studying captured Velen technology. Admiral Yoon had retired, spending his final years tending a small garden. Sergeant Do-hyun Choi had returned to teaching, though his students now looked at him with different eyes. And in the rebuilt halls of the United Earth government, a decision was made. Using captured Velen communication equipment, humanity broadcast a message across the galaxy. It reached every inhabited world, every space station, every ship traveling between stars. "We are humanity. We come from a small blue planet called Earth. We did not seek war with the Velen Empire. We did not ask for their invasion. But when they came to enslave us, we fought back, we bled, we died, and we won." The message continued, traveling through the endless darkness of space. "We do not want enemies. We hope for peace. We dream of friendship among the stars. But know this: we do not surrender. We do not break. And we do not forget. If you come to us with open hands, we will welcome you. If you come to us with weapons, you will face what the Velen faced. And only 17 of your ships will return home." Far across the galaxy, an alien diplomat read the message on his screen. His assistant, a young creature with too many eyes, leaned forward nervously. "Should we be concerned about these humans?" The diplomat was silent for a long moment. Then he shut off the screen and turned away. Concerned? No. He looked out the window at the stars, imagining that small blue planet somewhere in the distance. Terrified? Absolutely. The universe had a new species to fear, and their name was humanity.